The Sumerian civilization is special because it was the first ever civilization to form in the world. It produced many crucial inventions, such as the wheel, the plow, and the calendar. The wheel is especially important for transportation, and the plow we still use for farming today. The Sumerian civilization started around 5000 BCE. It was located in the Fertile Crescent, which is in an area that was known as Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Nowadays, it is known as southeastern Iraq. Unfortunately, the Sumerian civilization was eventually conquered by the Akkadians. The Sumerians were well known for developing the first irrigation system, which required all city-states' maintenance since it was so complex. It was also famous for the wheel, which solved quite a bit of transportation problems and saved everyone work. My research question is, how did conflict and cooperation affect the systems of irrigation, written language, technology, and government in the Sumerian civilization? The Sumerians invented the first irrigation system. It used canals and levees to function, and people had to work together to clean out silt in the system so that it wouldn't get clogged up and stop functioning. It was extremely important to the Sumerians because they would have had nothing to eat without it, so their whole life depended on this system. How can irrigation lead to cooperation? Well, all the cities had to cooperate to maintain the irrigation system. They knew that they, as a civilization, would collapse if the irrigation system failed. So they were forced to work together as a whole so that they could reach the common goal of surviving as a whole. The Sumerians' written language was called cuneiform. It was created by pressing a wedge-shaped stylus into wet clay to create representative symbols. The wet clay was then dried in the sun. This language was used by Sumerians to record trade. It was the only way for them to record things down on paper to use for later. Cuneiform was used by scribes, whose main job was to write down trades. They even went to a special school to learn how to do this. But what does this have to do with cooperation or conflict? Well, scribes had to write to earn their wages. The king, government, and the public relied on scribes alone to record down their trading. It was a win-win situation. Technology could be referred to as the Sumerians' best aspects. They invented tons of important things, such as the wheel, the plow, the calendar, and the 360-degree circle. I believe we have already talked about the first two. The Sumerian calendar was a basis for both the Greek and the Roman ones, and the 360 circle was derived from a base 60 system that we also get our hour and minute from. How can technology be associated with conflict? Well, if you think about it, all technology is made to combat something. The wheel was made to combat transportation issues. The plow was made to combat farming issues. And the calendar was made to address timing issues. So, there, my friends, is our conflict. Here is the social structure. The king, to the government, to traders, to farmers, to slaves. This was the social structure at the time, and you can see the full thing at right. Sumer consisted of different independent city-states that all had different governments and were constantly warring from inside for water privileges and other things like that. This really weakened Sumer as a whole. The Sumerian government was affected by both cooperation and conflict. Kings depended on their subjects' cooperation to rule. City-states, as mentioned before, were always battling each other and thus weakening themselves. This made them open to attack and they were easily defeated by the Akkadians. The Akkadians, however, avoided this mistake, and so they survived much longer than the Sumerians. The systems of the Sumerian civilization were affected by cooperation and conflict because they all relied on cooperation to be invented and maintained well, such as the irrigation system and the government. And all had to be shaped by conflict to be improved, such as a wheel, which is an example of technology. And this is the way of history. And these are the sources I used for my project. They are cited in MOA7 format and arranged alphabetically. Thank you for watching my presentation.